All police convoys should henceforth, as a matter of compulsion, obey all traffic regulations. This is an order issued by the Acting Inspector General of Police, Olukayode Egbetokun, and it begins with him. The IG gave the directive during his meeting with the Mobile Police Squadron and commanders at the force headquarters in Abuja. The police boss believes that if the force is to earn the respect of the public, it must lead by example. Mr. Egbatokun argued that the police will lack the moral high ground to interrogate and bring lawbreakers to book if the force fail to obey the same law they enforce. As appealing as this may sound, it is not the first time police authorities have made laudable pronouncements, but are unfortunately disregarded by the operatives. To better make sense of this order this time around, we are joined by Segun Sopito, a public affairs analyst. It's good to see you. First of all, how impressed are you by this pronouncement by the new Inspector General of Police? This is like we've had the same instruction 2015, 2018. We had it in 2020. This is the fourth time running. It's a charm, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe the fourth time. Maybe it will be fourth time lucky. I mean, but the reality. Good evening, Felicity, and good evening, viewers. Look, the reality is that, like you said, this is not new at all. And every single Inspector General of Police that has been appointed, that has been newly appointed since I've been a grown adult, has said something like this. And here we are, here we are in 2023, and nothing has changed, nothing ever changed. And I, because I generally tend to be somebody who looks into the past for anything will change. It's a very beautiful soundbite, and the IGP is absolutely spot on. Basis for the police to enforce the law if they don't obey the law. I think that statement is important to come from right from the top of the force. But he has to go a step beyond just saying that. He has to go beyond rhetoric. He has to ask himself, why is it that all IGPs in recent or past history have made these comments or made these pronouncements and his people have not obeyed? The trick to effecting this statement will be in the answer to that question. And for me, it's very simple. Consequence management. Impunity is the order of the day in this country. It's a culture, whether, with government officials or especially with law enforcement people and people in uniforms. They just feel that the law doesn't apply to them. So what I think the IGP needs to do is to find a way to ensure that his people, his officers and men who do not obey this directive are brought to book. It's very simple. So
how is he going to show seriousness? You've said that, he should learn from what was done before and see how he can be different. But how can he show seriousness with enforcement?
I think that ordinarily you would say technology, but we know how fantastic we are with the use of technology as government, at the level of government in Nigeria, so that won't work. But I think that what he needs to do is to enlist the help of the public, make available lines, some sort of a platform. It's not just phone numbers, a proper, well-established whistleblowing platform that will enable the members of public to report police officers and police formations and police, convoys that break these laws. If we're able to report such infringements or infractions and people see consequences, then they will be encouraged to use those platforms the more. And, as long as there's consequence, the policemen will behave themselves. But if there's no consequence, if tomorrow after the IGP has made this statement, they jump the traffic lights as they normally do, even when they are not on any essential or emergency duty, and nothing happens, then they will keep doing it. It's very simple human behavior.
Your last comment is the tricky part, really. And we just flashed a quote on the screen. I wish the producers can flash that again. That's it. part of his statement was that all police convoys on routine, non-emergency movement must obey the order, basically.
Okay.
But how can the public determine who is on essential duty?
Well, I mean, it's not really that difficult, to be honest, Felicity. When a movement is happening and an emergency is going on and the police is responding to that emergency, from the movement, from the manner in which they are moving, you will know that something is up. You know, they're blowing their sirens and they're, driving frantically. There are things that you can look out for. But what you see happen driving along his merry way, very slowly and very calmly, simply doesn't obey, traffic lights. They don't obey. In fact, the traffic officer, the traffic police will stop traffic to allow them pass, even when, it's obvious that they're not going anywhere special. So I think that it's not really rocket science to at least have some sort of an idea as to whether this person is on an emergency duty or not. And if they are, let the public do their duty. Let's report it. And then let the police come out and say, look, there was an emergency and that's why these people broke the law. But I think the only solution to this is consequent management. Of course, to start with, the IGP must lead by example, which is great. He must get political office holders to also lead by example. And then men and officers must be brought to book if they break this law. I think if that happens, then maybe we'll see a change this time around.
All right. He resumed 6 days ago and is already unveiled a new policing strategy for the Nigerian police and has reassured citizens that the police under his command will symbolize excellence, integrity, and compassion. What does this indicate about his style, and what should we expect from the police under his leadership?
Well, what he said now and what is said when he was being decorated are, very different. And it's good that he's come around to say this, to talk about, the softer issues. Initially, he was feeling like a tiger and a lion. But, for him to come forward now and talk about excellence, talk about integrity, talk about compassion, very importantly, in policing, I think is fantastic. It's the right kind of signaling that should come from the top. And, then he needs to go a step further to retrain the police force to imbibe these values. These are core values. These are issues of core values and culture. So culture can be deliberately crafted and deliberately implemented in organizations. And I think that is probably what he needs to do.
One quick question. In the interest of time, yes, quick question before I let you go. During the unveiling, you also announced the creation of a new special intervention squad comprising about 40,000 specially trained elite officers for frontline operational duties, that's the word, in all states of the Federation, with particular focus on areas plagued by unrest and turmoil. First, your thoughts when you heard this, and second, in a country of over 200 million people, is this number adequate?
My initial reaction was to say, well, this is not a bad idea. It sounds something like the SWAT that we see, in the United States, for example, special weapons and tactical force, specially trained to respond to special situations that the ordinary policeman can't handle. But then, when you say to areas of unrest, and what's the other word he used? That word unrest makes me a bit uncomfortable because, the special forces should not be used to quell unrest. Unrest simply sounds to me like protest. It sounds to me like riots. And riots should not be quelled with special tactical units. They should be quelled by ordinary policemen that are trained to intervene in such situations. So I think we need to interrogate this tactical unit a bit more, understand exactly what their purpose will be, and ensure that this is not some sort of suppression or repression machinery.
It will be interesting to see how he leads, indeed. Thank you very much, Mr. Segun Sopito, for speaking with us.
Thanks for having me.